Okay, friends, here we go. I am back in the home studio for this one. And what we're going to do today is we are going to round out our Matthew reading for this week. So we're going to look at the last few verses that we're reading this week, verses 13 through 16 of chapter 5. You'll hear in the background a little bit of noise. People are working on the house next door. So just ignore that. Focus in on where we're going here. So what we're going to go after today is what Jesus begins to say about the people that he's speaking to. Okay? Now, we've talked about who he's talking with, this kind of ragtag group of folks. We've talked about where he's speaking to them. I showed you a picture of the side of the hill that this likely took place on. And if it's not that hill, it's one that looks like it. And we've talked a little bit about where Jesus is ultimately going with this teaching. He's teaching people how to live the good life. He's teaching people how best to live in this world. And what we looked at last time is even more about what he's saying to this ragtag group of people. He seems to be saying to them, look, while everyone else would say that you should be out, I say that you can be in. Like, while everybody else isn't going to look at you and think that you are blessed, that you are favored, I'm going to say that you are. He kicks open the doors of the kingdom and says, in this kingdom, the kingdom of God, the kingdom that I am bringing here, everybody can be welcomed. So he talks about what people were saying about them. He gives us these beatitudes. This is what people might say about you. And here, he goes even further about what he's saying about them. Not only are you blessed, not only are you in, but here's something else that he says about them. So in 13 through 16, we get three metaphors, okay? I'm going to read them to you. I'll point them out as we go, but be looking for what is the common thread in all three of these. You're the salt of the earth. So this is what he says to them. You're the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. So what's number one? He says, you're the salt of the earth. That's what you're like. I mean, you've heard people say like, oh man, that person's just the salt of the earth. That's where this comes from, straight from Jesus' teaching here. But what does this mean? Well, salt was used then to flavor food. It was also used to preserve food. So this is what it's used for. What does it mean that it loses its taste? Well, one of the possibilities here is that one of the places that you got salt from is you got it from the Dead Sea. You can still get Dead Sea salt today. But when people would get it from the Dead Sea, they'd get a clump of it, but it wouldn't be pure salt. I mean, it would be mixed in with all kinds of other things. So you'd get this hunk and it would have saltiness in it. But eventually, once you've gotten all the salt out of this salt hunk, but you've gotten all the true salt out, well, that hunk, it no longer has any flavor to it. It no longer has any saltiness to it because you've mined out of this chunk the true salt out of it. So that could be part of the reason that this is a metaphor that everybody of the day would have understood. When it says that it lost its taste, that's not actually what it says in Greek. What it says is when it's become foolish. Now, obviously translating it into English, it wouldn't make any sense. Salt can't become foolish, but you can see what the intent here is. When somebody becomes foolish, it's like they become dull. They're not sharp anymore. So when this hunk has lost its taste, it's like it's or when it's become foolish, that's like it's lost its taste. It's dull. It's just like an ordinary rock at this point. So Jesus says, you're the salt of the earth. You flavor the world. You preserve things. Like you are unique. You're special. You're distinct here. But be careful not to lose that. Here's the second one. You're the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. That statement about light of the world, it actually goes off in two different directions. So you got the saltiness and yet two ways that we're seen to be as light. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Picture that city in the distance. And picture, I think the city on the hill imagery is interesting because when you're looking at a city on a hill, you're not looking at one light. You're actually looking at like a multitude of lights put together that are magnified. So you're like a city on a hill. Nor, city on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. So here's a third one. You're like a city on a hill. You're like salt. You're like a lamp. But they put it not under a basket, but on a stand. And it gives light to all in the house. So you're like salt. You're like a city on a hill. You're like a lamp. And you know what you don't do with a lamp? You don't put it on a basket. You put it on a lampstand. Now, what is the similarity, the common thread that runs between these three? The saltiness, the city on the hill, the lamp that's on the lampstand. Well, the common thread between all three of these, and I hadn't seen this until recently, is that they're all things that are distinct from the environment that's around them. I mean, what makes salt distinct is it's its unique flavor. And when it no longer has its unique flavor, well, it's not even really salt anymore. You look out on the horizon in the distance and there's just darkness everywhere except this one spot where there's light cutting through the darkness. Same thing with a lamp. What does a lamp do? Well, in a dark room, it's different, it's unique. It casts light. So what is he saying to these people? These people that have gathered around him, he's saying, look, you follow me, you come with me, and what you will be is you'll be like salt, you'll be like light, you'll be distinct, you'll be unique, you'll be different from the rest of the world. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot in Cornerstone, and I've talked about in the Bible study also, is that if we want to be people who make a difference, and all of us want to be people who make a difference, if we want to be people who make a difference, we have to be willing to be different. You're not going to make a difference by being like everyone else. And Jesus is out to make a difference in the world. And he is recruiting people to come with him to make a difference in the world. And he says, if you're going to make a difference, you have to be different. Salt in the midst of a bland world, light in the midst of a dark world. That is who you're going to be. And then he rounds it out by saying, in the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who's in heaven. So the way that light shines, the way that salt brings flavor to a meal and can preserve food, the way that these two things operate, in the same way, you be that way. But what does it mean that we're light? And we'll round out with this. What does it mean that we're light? Somebody gave me a bookmark years ago. It was when I was moving away from Richmond to come down here to Dallas. Somebody gave me a bookmark. And I can't remember the exact quote, but the point of it was this, that there are two ways to be light. To be the sun, or to be the moon, reflecting the sun's light. And I got that bookmark, and I was with a mentor of mine, and he looked at me, and he immediately said, and which one are you? Are you the sun or are you the moon? And his point was, you're the moon. A lot of us think that we need to be the light in and of ourselves, as if we are somehow producing the light of the world. No. Jesus will later say, I am the light of the world. How does he say both? I am the light of the world and you are the light of the world. It's because he is the sun and we're the moon. We don't produce the light ourselves. We just reflect it. Jesus says to these people who are sitting at his feet, who are learning the best way to live, you are the light of the world. You are the people that my light will bounce off of and cast goodness into the world. So he can say, look, let your light shine before others, because he doesn't mean do that in a way where it will be about you or you will be boasting. No, rightly understand this. This is true for us too. The reason that we go out and we do good works, and we do them at times secretly, but at times in front of others, is not to shine a light on ourselves, but to point beyond ourselves to the one who is the source of the goodness, the source of what makes us unique, what makes us different. Friends, we are called to be like the moon that bounces his light off of us to light up the world. So, and there's a lot to chew on over the weekend, to sit on this. And then we are going to keep going in the Sermon on the Mount next week. More teachings from Jesus. It's one large teaching, really. More out of this large teaching from Jesus about what it means to live the good life, to be fully alive, to be fully human. God bless you, friends, and I'll see you next week.